We are recording. Well, welcome alumni. We're so excited that you're here. We're going to do introductions, and then I'm going to let the students introduce themselves, and then we will start going through the different categories of things that they're going to share. And so if, like, we're in the job category and they didn't answer something that you want to know, then please feel free to ask that question. But if it's totally unrelated to that particular category that we're in, then please save that for the end in the more miscellaneous section. So, they got you guys' bios, but just briefly tell us who you are, where you work, what you do, and in that share what you love about your job and what you're not so excited about your job. And we'll start with Corey, since you're on the end.
Hi, I'm Corey Deaton. I graduated, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, somewhere in there. I work at Eli Lilly in Indianapolis, where I'm helping start up a new line, so expand the capacity for the medicine.
Favorite thing and thing that you're not so excited about your job?
So, I enjoy, I guess, helping people in that bringing medicine that they need and that really improves their life, so that's been really good. It's been, being on a project is hard though, so we've had a lot of hours for the last couple of years here, working a lot of weekends and late nights. For instance, I was off today and got called at 5 a.m., so it gets to be a lot. But.
Alright, my name is Karmen Deaton. I graduated from Purdue in May of 2019. I work for Kylee. It's a civil engineering firm that has offices across the country. So I work in the Indianapolis office now. We were in Houston for a few years, and then we moved back. And I'm from Terre Haute, that's on here. And yeah, I guess what I like about my job is also like the benefit to the community. So being able to design new developments, whether they're schools, hospitals, Starbucks, those are also great. Whatever it is, I think it benefits the community because they can use those resources. What I don't like about my job is, I don't know. I work at a consulting firm, so it's kind of like, I'm not like on standard hours where it's like you clock in at 8, definitely you leave by 4. Like sometimes there's some variety in that. If something goes wrong or there's a deadline or your client calls you as you're walking out the door, you kind of need to address their needs. So sometimes it's a little more demanding on my schedule than I would like it to be. But honestly, it's been really good for the last few months, so I'm feeling good.
I'm Kylee, Brandenburg, and I am a teacher. I teach English as a second language in Lebanon to students K through 5. I love my job, but what I love the most about my job is being able to work with international students. We get lots of students immigrating, first time in the country. Got a lot of kids from Venezuela for some reason, different countries in Africa, so I meet tons of different students with different religions, going to learn about their culture. What's the hardest part of my job though is just lack of resources because we are growing so much. We've gotten like over 15 new kids like since the beginning of this year and just 3 through 5. So that's the hardest part, is trying to make sure you're not pouring out the empty pitcher and make sure that you're able to give them what they need.
Hi, my name is Kyle Brandenburg. My name is Juice, so you may know me or heard stories of me. They're probably true. So, and bad. So I'm a good example of like what not to do. Unfortunately, things have changed, but that's me. I'm a security analyst at Stratosphere Quality. So I've been with the company since 2017. 4 years as a full-time employee, 2 years as an intern. So coming up on, gosh, 6 years. So I mainly look at threat logs and determine traffic and protect our company from incoming threats from all over the world. That's what I love about my job, is that I have lots of access to all sorts of new tools. And what I don't like about my job is my boss, and he says, hey, let's make this happen. It's like, I don't have the proper access. I need access to certain things. He's like, well, make it happen. It's like, I can't make it happen. It's a circle. So, but that's me. Nice to meet y'all.
My name is Kylee. I graduated in 2019. My major was in animal science, and now I work in digital marketing. I work for a small company. I actually got in touch with them through Netting, Ben and Netting. But yeah, I've been working there 3 years now. My favorite part is that I get to work from home, so I get to like make my own schedule and hang out with my dog and my cat all day. My least favorite part is that it's not what I'm passionate about. I would like to work with animals sometime in the future, but for now this just makes the most sense. So.
Okay. Now it's you guys' turn. Let's start back here with Eli. Share your name and what you're studying, and just go around.
I'm Eli Smith. I'm studying construction management at IT Tech on Martin.
Hank, drones, and then ADT.
I'm Zach, construction engineering and management.
I'm Brandon, aerospace engineering.
Harrison, robotics.
Ben, aviation.
Bobby, mechanical engineering.
Hallie, industrial engineering. Casey, biomedical engineering and linguistics.
Shayna, finance.
Anna, civil engineering.
Peyton, aviation.
Emma, environmental engineering.
All right, got a wide variety. All right, like I shared with you guys, not everyone has to answer every single question, or we'd be here all night. But those that you feel passionate about, go ahead and speak up. And I specifically asked Karmen to continue the conversation of the category of job with, does everyone hate their job at some point? And if so, what do you do? Include in that discussion, how do you know when to leave a job or when you just need to stick it out, as well as the importance of having another job before you quit?
That was a long question,
It
but
is.
we'll break it
That's
down.
why it's written down.
Yeah. So y'all missed it, but I'm a civil engineer, so I can kind of relate to some of y'all's majors. But I guess, does everyone hate their job at some point? I don't think everyone necessarily has to hate it. I think there are definitely aspects that people don't enjoy as much. There are definitely tasks that I have to do on every project that like I don't like as much as like other tasks, but in your overall overarching job, I think as long as the things that you do like and that you're passionate about kind of outweigh maybe some of those less tasks you're less passionate about, it works out in the end. I definitely think there are seasons too where your life, like outside of work, is kind of crazy, so it makes work feel worse than it actually is. So it can kind of like dramatize those feelings of whatever it is. I mean, if you do hate your job, I think there's definitely conversations to have, whether that's with, like if I would talk to Corey or a friend, or even like a trusted advisor like Nettie, just having like that conversation and talking through like what's actually the problem. Like let's get down to like the root of it. Is it a person that you're working with that you don't like? Is it your supervisor that's not like respecting you? Or is it just like a feeling in the moment? Like sometimes we all have times where we're feeling a little more down or like emotional about things, or just like not motivated. I think that that's also valid. So I think it's just having those people that you know you can talk to and going through at least a few conversations about it before you just kind of make a rash decision. So I don't think you have to hate it, but I'm sure almost everyone has had times where they're like, I don't really want to do this. But unfortunately we work for the majority of our lives, so definitely highly recommend finding something that you are passionate about, because when there's at least a bit of a passion there, it kind of outweighs the bad days for sure. Because you can kind of see, you know, the big picture in it. Let's see. How do you know when to leave a job, or you want to stick it out? I would definitely say there are times even recently that Corey's kind of thought about this as well, with just being busy with his job. And I've thought about it too. I'm like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? I don't know. So I think that's also obviously praying about it and having that conversation with God and allowing Him to open your eyes to where He wants you to be. And sometimes I feel like that direction can be hard to like hear clearly or like have clarity on. And that's where your trusted advisors also help with that, try to like wade through it. But I always would say, like, definitely don't just get in, be like, yeah, I hate this, and like quit. We had someone who started, they were there for like 3 weeks, and they're like, yeah, it's too much, and then quit. And it was like, whoa, we haven't even had time to like have a conversation about what is it that's too much, or like, you know, what aspects are you not liking? Is it the work you're doing, the team? You know, I think you definitely have to give it time with everything. It's also gonna feel sometimes like you get out of school and you have no idea what you're doing. Like, I feel like I didn't I mean, I learned a lot of things in college. I learned a lot about problem solving and working with others, but I feel like direct application to what I'm doing every day, I did not learn that. So you have to give yourself some time too to grow and to learn and just to be trained as well. And then Nettie always has me cover this part because my mom has had some bad, not bad situations, but definitely have another job lined up before you quit. My mom's done that a few times. She's like, yeah, I don't like it, so I just quit. And I'm like, we need money. Like, you know, we have to still like provide for ourselves and be able to find things. Obviously, I guess there are some resources that you could get, but I would say putting in the effort to market yourself, update your resume, you know, interview for other positions, or even just find something in the interim that will help you at least pay the base, or just give you a little bit of stability will make that easier because you're not like so stressed about just being able to pay the bills. You're not making a wise decision on like what job to go after. So just kind of putting in that work. There are so many companies out there, honestly. Like, I know I'm like a very loyal person, so I feel like oh, I'm only going to work for this company for like the rest of my career. That's like a really long time also. So you have the ability to like look at others if you really think it's not going well you're at.
Thank you, Karmen. So this is for anybody that wants to answer. What do you wish someone would have told you before you graduated about work after college? Or something that you've learned?
Not everyone's your friend that you work with. So you can talk about faith in the workplace. It's not really frowned upon, but you have to be careful. HR is also not your friend. They're there to help manage relations. I'm just saying from experience. There's something. What?
Online.
So they're just like you just have to be careful with the conversations you have in public because you are in the. I work out of an office, so you have to be careful because other people's religions do matter. So you can't cross like certain lines and like say you're right. So just be careful with conversations you have in the workplace. Doesn't mean don't share your faith, but do it in a manner that's respectful. So.
It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of people here, but if you do work with children, obviously, like at school, like I can't talk about my faith with my kids unless they ask me a direct question. If they say, Mrs. B, do you pray? I can answer that question, but especially if I'm coming from a diverse, I've got like 6 different religions that are in my students, and so I'm not allowed to share with them the gospel because that goes against, you know, it breaks a lot of different laws and rules. So that is kind of hard because you want to, but you can't do that with kids. And
I think the biggest thing I learned is that you don't have to get your dream job right after graduating, and you also don't have to get necessarily your job that's in your major. Like, I feel like I went to school, I was like, animal science, like, growing up I was like, I love animals, and then like I graduate and I'm like 6 months later I'm like, I work in digital marketing, and I'm like, I never thought I'd be doing this. But I think I look at it like the skills that I'm learning now, like I'm still gonna use like down the line and like in my future, so it's not like a waste of time. And I feel like the whole thing with like passion, like I would love to have a job where I'm like passionate about it, but I also think that like with logistics of like paying the bills and stuff, like my job that I have like pays the bills, and so like if I can find other areas and like other ways to like use my passion, like volunteer at the shelter or something like that, that's like worked for me. So I think just like not having like a rigid like, okay, this is my dream job and we're just gonna do this, like just having an open mind and just kind of like giving it to the Lord of like, okay, anything could happen, but like if I'm trusting in the Lord, then like He's gonna provide whatever that is, and like it'll be better than like what I could have planned.
Any questions from you all about jobs or careers? Alrighty, we're going to move into community now. So share how you have found Christian friendships and what did that look like?
So, as Karmen mentioned earlier, we moved to Texas and knew basically no one for the first couple years of our marriage. So our friends pretty much exclusively came through church, our Christian friends at least. So we joined a church, got involved in a small group, and just met several other couples through that who we ended up becoming pretty close with. So that was a good experience for us. Texas also has a higher Christian population, I would say. So there were some people at work that I was in a Bible study at one point and with people at work. So that was another avenue that I haven't experienced here as much.
Yeah, I agree.
So I found Christian friends. Majority of my friends got married when they graduated. Corey was one of them. I was not. So I recently got married to this one.
He's so romantic.
Words.
In August.
He's like, I got married.
Words
All
are
right,
hard.
you guys get the point. But anyway, like I had to join a small group to have friends, like Christian friends. So I joined a single adult group through Harvest, which is now their church, oddly enough, that I used to go to. So that's where I started out. Like when I graduated, that's where I found my Christian friends. And now we have like a guys chat or guys group that goes out every like month or so to hang out and just enjoy being together. Also, I got involved in volleyball, so like outdoor volleyball, like intramurals for Purdue. Think of that outside of like adult life. Like there are leagues out there you can go be part of that. That's where you can find like your non-Christian friends, like to share the gospel with them and whatnot. So.
And that was my next question. So way to be on it. Where do you find your non-Christian friends?
You have to seek them out. Like you can't just like, oh, they'll find me. No, like you have to be intentional. Go to things. Like try new things. Like go rock climbing. Be intentional with conversations. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that was one of my biggest like worries. Not when we moved to Texas because we didn't know anyone, like Corey said, but when we came back to Indiana, I was like, I don't want to just fall into just hanging out with the people that I already know that are in Indy. Like I love hanging out with people. Like I hang out a lot with like our friends and alumni and stuff like that too, but I wanted to make sure that we were also pushing ourselves to meet people outside of our group that we already knew, because then it like opens up different perspectives, you know, like different college experiences, all these things, and just that was something that we really prioritized. And then non-Christian friends, I'd say the majority of them are the ones that I work with, also volleyball, playing intramurals. And yeah, a lot of my work community too. A lot of workplaces will have groups for like young professionals. So if you're just coming in your first, 5 years or so, usually there's a group. And that was nice because I got to know them a little bit better, and then could also like feel like I could actually build relationships with them and then have more conversations that were intentional, instead of it just being like a, hey, how's it going in the kitchen? And then I never talked to them again. So.
I think it's important to be able to like connect with people on a different so again at school, like I can talk to my kids about Christianity, but I can talk, to other teachers and everything. And since I just got married a couple months ago, another teacher was getting married over our fall break, and she was like having a complete freak out. And I don't know about her religion, but I was able to make a connection with her and be like, look, I just got married, like it's gonna be okay, it's not the end of the world, like it's gonna you're gonna get through it. And being able to like form those relationships and be able to connect on a different level, find something similar with them. You may think, oh, because they're not Christian, like it's hard to have similarities with them. That could be a mindset that a lot of people have. But being able to connect with them, and then I was able to text her like, I'm praying for you, like on the day of her wedding and stuff, and just letting her that I was there. Being able to form those relationships are really important.
Yeah, I would say community is huge, and that's like what I've been learning a lot, especially like being a single person like in your 20s, like because if you're married, you have your partner like there all the time, but like you just really have to be in a community. And so like I grew up here, so I went to like Calvary all my life, and then when I graduated, I just kind of wanted to like have my own thing, and like I still love Calvary and like all the people there, but I just kind of wanted to go on my own and like not be associated with my parents and stuff like that. So I started going to Northview, and actually the first thing I went to was like a life group, and I just connected with the girls there, and then they told me about the Porch, which I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's like a young adult ministry, and so that's where I found most of my community. And I think just the biggest thing I had to learn was just like intentionality. Like you have to continue to like reach out to people. Like don't just assume they're gonna like come to you. Like you have to seek it out, and not just once, but like continuously, because like that's how friendships are made. And like it took me probably a year to like get close friends that like I have like a life group now that like we do a bunch of just like random fall things together and like that. But you just have to be really intentional, because we were made to do life together. But it's hard, and like the enemy's always trying to isolate you, so you really have to be alert and sober.
For
I
sure.
think that's my biggest adjustment from college, honestly, was being around all these people, like literally all the time, and having these built-in friends, because you're put in classes together, you're put in, you know, situations where you're like automatically friends, and then after that you have to seek that out on your own. That was a big adjustment, honestly.
So share a little bit about how you found accountability partners, mentors, if you have one.
Again, that comes through like intentionality of like joining a church, and then once you found a church that you want to like serve at, you follow through with joining a group. And then once you're in like a life group, I was in a young adult group, that's when you can find an accountability partner. It's like when you're showing up regularly and whatnot. So
As far as mentor goes, I think finding the people that, like for us, it was finding somebody, like a couple that we aspire to be like. I'm really close friends with a lady that I grew up going to church with, and she's like a second mom to me, and so she's kind of meant, like, her and her husband have a very healthy relationship, and so kind of having them there as well as like kind of to mentor, you know, because we know I've seen her grow up with her husband.
All right. Any questions about finding community? Alrighty. Got kind of a general section. So what were you the most prepared for after college? And you can combine together if you want. What do you wish someone would have told you about life after college?
I feel like most prepared for it. I did feel really prepared to like find a church and like get community. I think I'm a pretty extroverted person too, so that kind of helps. But just I wasn't scared of making new friends, I guess, in a new area. I mean, yes, I had Corey, so that was obviously nice. It was built in, like, you're gonna be my friend regardless. But I would say that wasn't something that I was nervous about, and I knew that it might look a little bit different and be a little bit difficult at the start, but I felt prepared to be able to, I don't know, like be myself and just like be intentional in those conversations and reach out to people. And that was just something that we prioritized too, is finding a church, so we found that pretty quick. We didn't try that many, we didn't like, I mean, you can definitely shop around and see which one you think that you like the most, but I would say I know people that do that for so long that it's like it's been a year, you've tried a new church like every Sunday. Like you're not actually building community in that because you're not really getting to know anyone that deeply. So that was something I felt pretty prepared for. Wish someone would have told you. That's hard.
the second one, or
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of things that, well actually, Nettie did tell me this, I just didn't apply it fully, so my fault. Yeah, something that I definitely wish I would prioritize more is like my Sabbath and like my time to actually rest. I've always been like this go, go, go person, was super busy in college, like those intramurals, Nick was talking about 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. I went to every single intramural game we had, like I led the intramural team, and so I went and cheered everybody on. I like definitely sacrificed sleep, which was fine, and I don't know, I guess I wish I would have actually made that more of a practice in college, because I thought there's no way I'd be any busier like after college. Like I thought life would slow down. It like 100% does not. I don't have kids yet, and I don't know how I'm going to have time for anything.
Always spill your time. Humans always spill their time.
So I thought it would be slower. I guess that's something that maybe I wish someone would have told me. Yeah, it doesn't get any slower. There's always things to do. You always have to balance a lot of things. So that's something that I would highly recommend if you have not learned how to practice. Use the last 6 months or how much ever you have left for school to actually hone that in. It would help me a lot.
I would echo that sentiment. Since getting, like, even before getting married, time would just escape from you. Like, then you throw in a spouse, and then like I feel like we've been non-stop go, go, go since we got married. Like we barely had a weekend off, and it's all good things, but there's been no rest, and you're just like in a perpetual state of tired.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, like Karmen said, like you're so busy here with activities and like ministry and sports and academics. Like you think it's gonna calm down, like, oh, I'm just gonna have to work, go home, and that's it. Nope, that is not true. So I wish it would have paid attention more to that, and definitely learn time management, because if you don't learn it now, it's going to get you after college when you have a real job. So.
It's pretty easy to be like logistically prepared to live alone, like independently after college, because I was like kind of used to that. But it's not. It was a lot harder for me to like make sure I was still keeping track of those relationships outside of work, because especially like with my job, like I'm honestly just exhausted at the end of the day because I have 40 kids who are asking me so many questions and I get very tired. And so after school, it'd be easy for me to just go home, like not talk to anybody the rest of the night, and doesn't always form like the healthiest mentality. And so while logistically, like I could feed myself, take care of the house, take care of my cats and my dog and everything, it was making sure that you still had, you know, those relationships that you were counting on and keeping track of and working with.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to maintain those relationships after you leave. Like like I said, y'all are all here together now, and then you're all gonna move, or maybe some will stay. You know, there's a mix, but you have to put in a lot more intentional time to like keep those relationships and maintain them. So.
I know it's been a while, but think back to right after you graduated, and like the first few months right after you graduated, what was the most amazing thing and what was the hardest thing for you?
Mine's just the same thing. I mean, marriage, I mean, it was awesome, but it was also very hard. So I went from, like Corey he graduated a year before me, so he was already in Texas. So I spent like our year engaged, mostly just like here with friends. Like I mean, I had a lot of friends, obviously. Like Swan and I are very close. She helped me plan my entire wedding. Corey barely. She definitely did more for our wedding than Swan did, except he financially paid for it. So I can't say that. But anyway, I guess that was like. It was really good, but it was also really hard because obviously marriage is great, and it was really great to have a partner and like we're gonna be together forever, you know, and figuring out life. But also I had lived like not independently, but it was just me here at school the last year, so we really didn't have like a lot of time together like that year before getting married, which is kind of weird when you think about it. But it was hard because it was adjusting to like, oh, it's not just me making my own decisions now. Like, I'm not going to go to an intramural game at 11 p.m. and he's like, what are you doing? It's bedtime, you know. We don't do anything at 11 p.m. anymore, guys. We're old. But yeah, it was awesome, but it was also hard. It was just a big shift to listening to someone else's opinion or like trying to mesh what you're gonna do. I don't know. You can't just do what you want. I think I heard you say that the other day. He's like, yeah, I was gonna like go do something, and then he's like, wait, Kylie said no, and I was like, shoot, I have to actually like think about what she said. Like, it's not just me making my own decisions anymore. So yeah, that's an adjustment too, I would say. It's not tied down or anything. Like, no, it's good, but it's a lot different.
So, like, I didn't get married right out of college, obviously. I'm 25, we just got married in August, but so I had a couple of years outside of college. And the hardest thing was honestly living with my parents after being in college, because I love my parents, they're wonderful. I spent my last 5 months of college in Germany, because I studied abroad, that was my major. I minored in linguistics as well. And so, but going from being completely independent, like live my own life, to being back at home, my parents were like, oh, where are you going? What are you doing?
Yeah.
What, you know, who are you going to be hanging out with and everything. That was really hard to make sure that I was being respectful to them, because I do love them and I do respect their opinions, but also trying to start building that life as like your own young adult. And so that was definitely the hardest thing of leaving college, and if you're to go live with your parents again, it's a lot. Just remember they love you and that you love them, and when you move out, your relationship's going to be so much better.
But also free rent.
Free rent and
that was the good thing about it, right?
And free food was amazing.
I think combining the last question with this one, the hardest thing, and I wish that someone had told me, was just like being careful not to like compare myself with others, and like knowing that there's like no formula for like how life works after. It's like, oh, you get married, you have kids, like all this stuff. It's like, no, like it's different for everyone. Everyone has a different timeline. I also think like in your 20s, you're literally just figuring out how to be like an adult, and so like there's like so much great things with that, but also like it's kind of stressful. So I think it's a pro and a con of like, oh, like I can do whatever I want, like find my passions, figure out what I want to do, what I like, those kinds of things. But at the same time, it's like no one else is telling me what to do. Like, I have to figure it out for myself.
Yeah.
So it's like a double-edged sword.
Any wisdom from the quiet one down there?
Yeah, I was like, this is
No.
quiet.
No?
No.
Okay.
Don't refute my answer.
Blink twice if you need help.
I was gonna say. So you guys kind of covered the next one, but is there anything else about relationships just in general after college, you know, living as a single person, living as a married couple, that you would give advice? Because we got kind of a mix here.
Yeah, I had to like not sweat the small stuff. I think I gave this example last year too, but I remember I like started work at the end of June, so I was like, you know, we moved to Texas right after we got married, or honeymoon, then moved to Texas, so then I had like a month where Corey was working, but I was like just chilling for a while. I didn't want to start immediately. And I remember I would like do all the laundry, and then I would hang all of Corey's like our clothes up, and I like had it organized in the system, and then he like did not appreciate my system. And I was like, what do you mean? This is great. And I remember he's like, no, I'll do my own laundry now. And I'm like, what do you mean? You're going to volunteer to do a chore when you don't have to do it? And I was afraid. He's like, yes, because, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he like hangs his shirts inside out. I'm like, oh, this is just disgusting.
However it comes out of wash.
Yeah, anyway.
Well, apparently it's a full-time job to do whatever you did.
But anyway, that was something that like I was like, wow, like kind of not offended by it, but I probably acted like I was. And so just like small things like that that like do not matter. Like, does his closet organization bother me? Still, yeah, a little bit. But like, can I just close the door to his closet and not worry about it? It doesn't impact my life. So I think there's a lot of little stuff like that that you can definitely pick up on and be like, okay, I just need to let that go. It's really not that deep. But yeah, I don't know. And like appreciating the small things too, because like when you are working 40 hours a week or whatever it is, and you come home and you just have a few hours in the evening together, like you have to be really intentional with that time, because you could just let it go and like, oh, we're just gonna watch TV or, you know, do whatever, and then you're like, wow, we had like no meaningful conversation this week. And you realize on the weekend, like, oh, I don't even know what you did this week. I have no idea like what's been going on. So also appreciating those small moments and like small times and being intentional, whether that's like when you make dinner or like, you know, walk the dog after dinner or whatever it is. Just make sure you have some intentional moments every day.
Mine would be, since I didn't get married, so I'm 29, I don't... We graduated the same year, but yeah, it doesn't matter. So this is cliche to say, but like, trust God's timing with relationships and do not force them. They will happen in their own time, so don't look around at, like say, all my friends were getting married around the same time, and I was like one of the last ones, and I was like, oh, am I ever going to find somebody? Don't worry about it. Like, there's time. Like, you're 21 years old when you're graduating. Like, there's plenty of time to find a spouse. So, trust the process.
And if you are looking at getting married, you know, when you look at getting married, I think one of the best things we did was go to premarital counseling, because our pastor at our church was like, hey, you know, just do it, because we learned a lot about each other, like as far as even like how we deal with frustrations and stuff. Like, he's like, I want to like tackle the issue right away, and I'm like, I need like 20 minutes to calm down so I don't start crying immediately. And that's something that was good for us to know beforehand, because you are going to have frustrations, especially as you're figuring out how to live with somebody else, and getting that, you know, kind of figuring out, he knows not to approach me if I'm and so just figuring that out beforehand so that we know kind of go into a relationship.
I think from a single perspective, like, I'm really trying to use this time to just like really devote myself and like build a stronger foundation with like the Lord, and like I have all this time to like just focus on Him, and so that's like just been something I'm trying to do. And then also just like with friendships, like I have all this time to like invest in my friends, versus when I'm married, like I'll have to, I mean I can still have friends, but it's just going to be a different dynamic. So I think just like looking at like the gift of singleness, like there is so much good things like in singleness, of just like figuring out who you are and like building your foundations with like the Lord and with like your community and your family and all that stuff. So.
Well said, well said. Any questions, follow-up questions?
We're an open book, y'all, so please
Yeah,
ask questions.
they'll literally tell you anything.
No shame.
You guys are quiet. Normally there's so many questions. All right, let's move on to financial. So what do you feel like you did well financially after college? Corey, I know you have
Yeah, I
to
was like, you
sit
have to
because
sit.
you are the guru.
I married for money.
We know you were the sugar daddy.
Until last year.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm quitting being a stay-at-home husband. I guess just started investing immediately, taking advantage of whatever your company has to offer. If they have like a matching 401k or anything, that's definitely a good option. And if you don't know about like Roth IRA versus a traditional, like just trying to do some, basically, listen to Dave Ramsey for a few hours and get it. But yeah, just start investing early. Don't go out and buy a fancy new car when you get your first paycheck.
Car payments. Don't do it. It's too often space.
Yeah. So, yeah, I remember I had my same high school car for the first few years of when I was working, but then a couple years behind me, somebody got hired and went out and bought a Tesla, and I just like ran the math on like how much it would cost him. It's like $1 million in 20 years or whatever the difference if you would just invest that money instead of buying a Tesla. So it adds up quick.
This is what Corey's good at. Financial and the savings.
Yes, like we bought our used, when his car died, we bought a used car for like $13,000. Like, it's a Toyota Corolla, very reliable, not that fancy. Right now, it looks like crap. It has a broken windshield and like 2 missing hubcaps, but it gets around. It gets good gas mileage.
It's only been like a year.
And, stuff like that. There's just like decisions you can make that are definitely more financially wise than nice. It definitely doesn't look nice. I'm like, why? You have money to fix your windshield, but it doesn't. So I think just being wise about that is really important. And yeah, I don't know. I think we did a good job at like saving. I mean, we definitely also started tithing immediately after we found the church that we were going to join. That was something that we really prioritized too, is being able to just like go ahead and sign up for your tithe to come out immediately and just like let it go. Same with like when you're investing or like you're putting back 401k money, like just let it be taken out of your paycheck before you even see it, because then you don't even know what money you're not making. Like you are making it, but if you don't see it, you don't miss it as much, I guess. And then yeah, just having like your tithe set up and your priorities straight basically with your finances. Definitely recommend making a budget. Can't say that we've done that in a while though, to be honest. So we have fallen off the budget train, but you should definitely do it.
Do the same as I do.
Yeah, I'll get back on it once I want to recognize how much I'm spending, and I don't right now. But yeah, that's definitely important though to really know what you are spending, because yeah, it's so easy even just to like spend so much money on food. I mean, I think that's something that we knew in college too. Like we'd go hang out, and it's like, well, there was $14 to Taco Bell. Like, was that really necessary? No, but it was fun and we hung out. But yeah, just like being wise about where your money's actually going and setting yourself up for success later. Like you don't really think about retirement when you're just starting your job for the first time, but honestly it's really important. And I didn't really have, like my family did not have good financials or like intelligence about financials, I guess. They were pretty ignorant about it. So I think Corey's family was really good, and like he was, so that's where I learned it from. But if you don't have that in your life, like find a class or find somebody that can kind of give you that wisdom, because it's something very easy to be ignorant about, I guess.
Compound interest is your friend, so like Corey said, the sooner you start investing, like the more money you'll have at the end of retirement. So you guys are in your early 20s, and you guys are going to have a lot more money than I could if I started investing now, if you guys start investing now. So.
If you were able to, like I was very lucky because I was able to buy a house instead of having to rent an apartment, and when we started dating we found out that my mortgage was like half of what his rent was each month.
And I had roommates.
And I lived on my own. And I think for us making the decision, we're living in the house for a couple years till we kind of get, like we've been tapping student loans and everything, making sure those loans get paid off. And I mean, the house is small, the kitchen's small and stuff, but stuff we can deal with for now.
Right.
And we know that we're willing to make the sacrifice that in a couple years we can build a home that's going to be bigger and better. But also it just made sense for me because I knew I was going to be living in Kirkland, I knew I was going to be leaving there anytime soon. And so if you're planning on moving around a whole lot, it probably makes more sense to rent, but I was lucky enough to just be able to buy in a spot close enough to my job and my family. And then tackling those loans.
Yeah, I think I was very fortunate. I moved home after college for a year to save up money and then bought my house in 21 or something. So if you can if you can buy. It's probably it's nice. But yeah, I don't know. And like with the budgeting thing, I'm not too like I don't know. I'm not a Dave Ramsey budgeter, but like I do like keep track of like all the money that I'm spending, and like at the end of the month, I'll like go through each one and just like say like, okay, I spent too much at restaurants. We're gonna chill next month, and just like I've been blessed to like I'm good with money, so like I'm not a spender usually. So I don't know, just use your money wisely.
Any other wisdom about tithing or things that you wish you would have done differently?
No, I mean, if you're responsible with your money though, when you give your tithe, you can also give gifts beyond that to other causes you're passionate about or just one-offs that come up as you're serving in the church or whatever. So.
That's something we too prioritize giving back to Launch too, because we know it did so much for us when we were students. I mean, we also met like all of our best friends, it seems like, and we just grew a lot. I grew so much in my faith when I was in college, like beyond, anything that I had learned prior to that. And that's something that I can see, like the impact that Nettie and Ben and Rick and Dennis and Julie have all had on my life. And so that's something that we gave back to it also, because we know that we can help them do that for so many more students like you guys. And I can't imagine going through college and not having this ministry. To be honest, I don't know what I would do. I'd be a nerd, I guess. I just would have done simple things. But yeah, so that was something that we prioritized giving back to as well, and like coming back and helping with whatever it is that Ben and Eddie need. And then yeah, just being able to, we've helped my family a lot with random stuff financially just because we're in the position where we can. And that's not something I could have ever imagined growing up. So.
Any questions about finances?
I got one.
Sure.
All right, got a question about
Yeah.
So you said you went to Texas right after college?
Yep.
Like, how fast did you know that you were landing that job in Texas before you, and then like when it came to the whole living situation, was it pretty hard to find a place to live, or was it like not so bad, like straight out of college? New job?
Good question. So I took an internship my senior year down there at a company in Houston, and ended up really liking it. So at the end of that internship, they gave me a full-time job. So that would have been, so I guess I would have known about 9 months in advance that I was going to move there. So, and it wasn't actually in Houston. It was east of Houston, like 30 minutes. So it was a pretty small town, and I knew I was getting married a year later, so I just rented a place that was close by work. It wasn't very hard to find at that time. I don't know if it would be tougher now, but I had pretty low standards too, so.
Thanks, I guess.
I had like zero furniture. I just moved down in my car.
That's true.
With my dad and 2 sets of golf clubs. So.
That's like literally half his car is his dad and his bag and their golf clubs. And I'm like, what did you bring down? He's like, clothes. I'm like, okay, I guess. That's like all I need.
Yeah, so, yeah, it wasn't too hard at that time. I ended up finding a place by myself too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I help with recruiting too at my company, and I know whenever I have a new hire or like an intern coming and they don't know the area, like they're not from Indy or whatever, I also like, our company will give recommendations for like neighborhoods to live in or like different apartments or like stuff like that. So I think also if you know like what firm you're gonna be working for or like where the office is, that's something you can ask and they can definitely provide that generally. And I think that goes a long way. I would say if you can like interview in person and see the office too, that's nice because you can kind of get a feel for like the neighborhood it's going to be in or like where you're at. I know there's a lot of like hype around living like in like nicer or like, I don't know, young areas too, but honestly being close to work is really convenient, and then you can drive on the weekends to other things. But like I don't want to say don't be dumb, but don't drive an hour to work every day just to live in like this part when you could like live close to work and then you drive an hour on the weekend kind of thing. I know a lot of people that did that and they're like, "Wow, I hate my commute, I'm gonna quit my job." And I'm like, what are you doing? So yeah, use your brains a little bit.
It's very wise.
Yeah.
Put that in the notes.
Yeah. I was like, why?
Add that to your section.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, it's funny.
Cool. Anybody else?
Part 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
What about like if someone is considering like maybe going overseas for a few months and coming home and going like doing some contracting and coming home, like what about like that type of living situation? what would you recommend?
So when I graduated, I went on a mission trip to the Philippines right away. I had like maybe 2 weeks in between.
Yeah.
So I was in the same situation as Corey pretty much. I had an internship. I interned at the same company for 2 years, and I still didn't have a full-time offer by the time I left. So I was kind of like, am I gonna have a job when I get back? Like, I was a very good employee. I still am today, despite my story earlier. That was not for me, by the way. That was not for me. But I'd say try to find something before. Can you go ahead and repeat your question? I was kind of going off on a tangent.
Yeah, so I was in the Army, now I'm guard.
Yep.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so like going overseas for some contracting, it's pretty lucrative.
Right.
But you're there and then you're home. Like you're over there for 3 months and you're home for 3 months, and it's just like this cycle that you're doing.
I guess.
Apartment maybe.
I mean, you could sublease, but also like if there was a friend or like a family member or somebody that you could at least have a little bit of buffer room in there, so that you're not like committed to something and like paying for something when you're not using it. I think that's nice. I don't know what you're gonna say, but
Yes, it depends how much stuff you have, but like.
yeah.
What,
I like you, dude.
well, you could either go the storage locker route, or when I interned down there, I actually did like a 2 or 3 month Airbnb.
Oh, sweet.
If you would be up for living with some random person. But.
And their dog that runs away and that you have to go chase.
Worked out decent for me, but yeah, you could look at that. I didn't know they did longer term things like that, but some people do have their house on there for basically like you're subleasing somebody's apartments.
And then it's like less red tape and like contract stuff you have to worry about.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
In that like interim period of transitioning to a job after graduation, what were did expenses go up? How much did they go up? Like what kind of safety net should be built in for that is where my question.
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like you're never gonna get cheaper rent than we did here probably. If like college town rent, like I lived with 4 other girls and it was $400 a month. And we went to Houston and our apartment was $1,600 for us two. I mean, and we didn't even live in like the really nice bougie area. I mean, it was a 2-bedroom, could have been smaller, I guess. But I would say like I would definitely anticipate your rent and stuff to go up a decent amount, at least double probably. And then I mean the other expenses, I'm like you control your food and like miscellaneous expenses, but like utilities, it depends on the apartment. Some of like ours was included, so that was something we paid like the one amount, and that included water and electric and stuff like that. So it just kind of depends on that situation as well, I guess. But I would say, I don't know how much of a safety net to have.
Probably a couple months expensive because you might, like I used to work, I managed a cafe down at Italy when I first graduated. Found I absolutely hated it, became a teacher instead, so that's a whole shift in things. And I did kind of quit my job without really a backup plan. I substitute taught for a bit until I figured out what I was going to do. But I was still with my parents at the time, but I also had I've been saving up my expenses because I knew that I wasn't going to be at Italy that long. And then also I think kind of looking at, we're living in a town that has 1 stoplight, and so it's very small, but it's also only a 20-minute drive from where I work and where I teach. And so if we were to buy a house in Lebanon where I teach, it'd be a lot more expensive. We're choosing to live out in a very rural area because our mortgage is only $500 a month, and we have a decent size, like a 2-bedroom house for that price, and we'd be spending 3 times that much to own a house in Lebanon. Right. And so it's worth me, as a single person, it's worth me to drive 20 minutes each day to work because I realized the expenses of having a house in Kirkland was going to pay off.
Well, and we kind of touched on it last time, but in that document with all the things to consider for apartments and things, you can call the utilities and get an estimate for anywhere you're going to live, even a new house. I found that even if it hasn't been built yet, if you give them the specs, they can give you an average. Yes. So that always helped us a lot when we were moving different places.
Yeah.
I would say I think Dave Ramsey, you guys have they went through Financial Peace?
Yes.
No, but they had the Garrett's version.
Oh, okay. So
Cliff Notes.
I'd say 3 to 3 months. I did about $3,000, and I was fine with that. I also had 2 other roommates. My biggest expense was rent, which was $450 a month. So if you have about $3,000, that was in Fishers. So
Yeah, if you're sharing with
You
other
should,
people,
yeah.
that helps a lot.
Yeah,
It's
so-
like if you're getting your own apartment, it's definitely a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
And I honestly did not have any money out of college. And that's not why I got married, but that was so honestly, I didn't really worry about that because he had already worked for a year. But like, I don't know what I would have done. I would have figured it out, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely more expensive than a college town generally. Unless you're staying.
But I also paid, I got dining court food for 4 years, so it was like $20 a meal, so I can eat it pretty good for $20 a meal.
That's a good point. Good point. All right, I want to talk, you guys have mentioned a lot of different things about your church experiences, so we've covered most of that, but I just wanted to address, so it's pretty common that our launch students go get involved in a church and become like a leader in some capacity, because most of the time when you've been involved with the campus ministry, you are a little bit more developed in your leadership skills and a little bit more mature in your spiritual walk than just your average churchgoer. And so it's very common that our alumni go and get plugged in. But sometimes you're in a situation where there's a pecking order in the church and you may like know more and be equipped more than the older person, but because you're young, they don't want you to take that position or they're rude to you. And so it's like kind of a balancing act, like trying to figure out when to step up, when to not, when to observe a little bit more. And so I was going to have Corey kind of address that and share your experience of whether it's easy to plug into a leadership position or not, and then kind of share a little bit about the ministry you started with winterization.
Sure. Yeah, so we talked about kind of 2 of our churches at this point, but the one in Texas, we joined a small group, and after a year, we were kind of approached, I think, to lead a small group the next cycle. So that's kind of how we got into leading somewhat into people that are pretty much similar to us in age. As far as like deaconship or whatnot, I feel like that's generally reserved for people who've been members at least a little while. So I would expect to like jump straight in and just be like a leading in that aspect. But that said, there are things you can do that maybe aren't like spiritual leadership, but it's service leadership. So this year, our current church, we've been going there about 2 years. And Karmen and I ended up starting a winterization ministry. If you guys have participated in the one here, that was very similar, except it was for the widows in our church. So last weekend, we went out to 3 houses, I think, and there's about 20 of us, so we split into 2 groups and did the whole thing. So so that was cool to see. So I loosely worked with the staff there, and they helped gather some more volunteers and whatnot. But we basically led that outright. So you can make your own opportunities too, I guess is what I'm getting at. And if it's things you enjoy and like to do, it's very good. So.
Any other wisdom from anyone else about your church experience of getting involved?
I guess to address the question about like knowing when to wait, I guess I think it's good if you're starting a new church to kind of like observe first, like how do they do things before you're like, oh, this is how I did it at Purdue, this is how we're going to do it here. Like, no, they have a system, they have people in leadership, they have people that have been in that community and know it works well with that church body too. So I think like observing how they do things and then like offering alternatives or offering suggestions or examples of how you've seen things work here or in other aspects of your life, I think is helpful. But it's also like respectful to not be like, this is not really the way you should do it. You should do it this way. Like opinions can be told in a nice way as well. Instead of like, you're doing things wrong. Here's all these things that I already know how to do. And then also if you're gonna I think if you're gonna bring up a problem, I always suggest bringing a solution too. That's something I talk about at work too. If you're gonna notice that something's wrong or like you don't like the way somebody's doing something, I think like bringing that to their attention, but also providing like a suggestion or like a possible solution is really helpful because it's not like you're just pointing out what they're doing wrong. You're also like trying to help fix the situation.
All right, thank you. Any questions about church? Any of that?
I was going to say for Juice, you mentioned going to the Philippines right after college. How is that, like missions and short-term trips? Is that something that you've been able to continue or to support through? Or how's that work?
I haven't, no. So I I was actually the leader of our group, of the Americans, and I found it very hard because like there was a time when the typhoon season started and it rained for like a week straight, and I was like, if we don't get off this island, we're not getting off because there's no more boats. And I was like, I told our translators like, we need to get off this island like now, and I wouldn't say I threw a fit, but like I talked to somebody, I was like, can we please get off this island? Because the water would not stop rising, and I was like, this is getting scary. Like, so I have not went on any trips recently. I think that just might have terrified me. So, no, I'm not kidding.
It's valid.
You will never go on a boat again.
I won't go on a boat again, probably. So I'm on this little raft, and there's like 13 of us, and it's
like the Titanic.
It's like
this is not helping our missions.
All right.
Mission was great. Do it.
Mission is really good. But from my experience, I had a rough time with the Philippines. So, but I know, like, continue to like pour out into people that are willing to go and feel that calling on their life. I don't think that's my calling, but I mean, like, I will support people that want to go.
I think it's keeping your mind open to it too. Like, I wouldn't shut it off. Like, oh, I would never go. Like, if God's gonna tell me to do something, I'm gonna do it, even if it's uncomfortable. I'll probably like.
If there's a plane involved,
scared.
you'll probably go.
Yeah, if there's a plane involved, I'll probably.
But and then also like knowing that wherever you are is a mission field. Like we knew that at Purdue too. There's thousands of students that don't know God, and so using that. But that also doesn't change when you move to a big city. Like there's thousands of people in India that don't know God too. So just using that as well. And then yes, I think going on mission trips gives you a lot of perspective. For sure. And I mean, I don't think it has to be overseas. It obviously can be beach reach and you're going to Florida or whatever it is. But just finding those opportunities and just being open to them.
And even if you can't talk about like religion openly at your workplace, like how I also just try to like make sure that like I'm a safe place for my students, and I want them to think about like in 20 years when they graduate, like, oh, like this person was a safe place, like going to go in her class because I never felt judged, or I have kids who wear turbans because they're Sikhism. And I ask them lots of questions. I talk about like their religions and their beliefs and everything too, because I'm very curious. But I also want them to know like it's a safe place. And then in a couple years, when they're old enough, they want to come back and talk about religion. Like that could be open. But I never want them to feel like judged. And so that's kind of how I do missions in my workplace. Is just making sure that they always feel like that they know that my class is a safe place for them and their beliefs.
All right, we're running out of time. So the last question is, how did launch, it's PCM when you guys were here, impact you, and how did it help you in the real world with your family, work, and church? Which I know, Kylee, you were over yonder. You didn't know about us.
I didn't know you guys existed.
I'd say the study helped a lot, like eye-opening to like how to expect life after college, and we had various speakers come in as well.
We were the guinea pigs. It was the first year.
We really were.
They were the guinea pigs.
I don't know, just getting like pieces, like listening to us and our experiences helped a lot. Because you don't know what to expect. You're 20-some years old. The world's your oyster, quite, yeah.
I mean, I think it impacted me on so many levels. I don't even know if I can like genuinely answer this question like concisely. But I mean, I know if I wasn't here, I mean, maybe my faith would have grown, but in different ways. But I like for sure saw my faith grow, and for the first time become my priority, like in my number one priority in my life. And it definitely wasn't before that. So I think like having that mindset obviously impacts everything that I do because I have my faith first. And it also impacted obviously getting married, like meeting Corey here, meeting Aaron, like a lot of my friends and stuff like that. Just those relationships, it impacted that a lot too. And then I feel like it prepared me also to have these opportunities to plug into places, get involved, know how to share my faith, to be like not shy about it, and just knowing how important it is that others hear about your testimony and about Christ, and just having that just be your constant priority, and like constantly in your mind thinking about how you can do that wherever you're at. yeah, I feel like it honestly prepared me in so many ways. I don't know. Not just tooting Nettie's horn. It's like legitimate. I mean, Nettie helped me prepare for marriage too. We talked. You know, we did premarital counseling with my uncle who was doing our wedding, but I had counseling with Nettie, or just kind of going over like other, I don't know, marriage aspects in our mentoring meetings. Yeah, I learned a lot.
I mean, I found God here, like quite literally. Like I celebrated my 10th spiritual birthday in September, so if it wasn't for launch, I mean, God would most certainly use a different method, but I feel like if it wasn't the timing of meeting Ben during BGR and meeting Evan, where's Evan?
Right there, Deaton, Black Riding.
Evan's over here. That's one of my closest friends, and his oldest brother Kyle, shared the gospel with me, and I became a believer 10 years ago. So
At Fall Retreat.
at Fall Retreat. So this was quite literally the beginning of my faith. So I spent 6 years here. Like this is my favorite place. So.
Yep, I met Karmen right up there the first time. So
Upstairs. Yeah.
upstairs, that was cool.
That was cool.
That was cool, I guess.
But yeah, just giving you the confidence. I think through Beach Reach too
Yes.
has made a huge impact in my life. Going to that 4-ish times, 5 times maybe. And just building confidence there, talking about your faith and following through with what God is asking you to do. So.
I don't think it has to be as intimidating as it seems sometimes. I think just like knowing a person and like I think you were saying like just finding points to connect with them on is super important just for starting that relationship. So you're not going to come at them with the gospel the first time you ever talk to them. I mean you could, but like I guess you do in Beach Reach kind of, but like you start usually with something else. And so just like building those relationships I feel like actually gives you the opportunity to share with people because you actually get to know them and like what their pinch points are, what they struggle with, you know, what they're going through, knowing that they're people too, and you know, that they have, I mean, we have such a culmination of, you know, our growing up and our college experience and all these things that have like shaped our lives, and just seeing like kind of where they're coming from is really important for starting that and then actually being able to pour into them.
Any questions from you guys about anything?
I have one specifically for Katie. So, since you work from home, how, like, obviously you have other people in your company, how do you, like, I'm in a job part-time right now that's probably going to be, like, an interim full-time job, but it's a lot of, like, I'm working on my own, and so how do you build relationships with people in your company? How do you, like, do that when you're not working with them as much?
Good question. Well, my company is just me and my boss. So we have, like, meetings every morning at, like, 10:15. But other than that, I don't really talk to him that much. But yeah, so that's why, like, it's really important for me to, like, get out of my house and, like, at least once a week I'll go to, like, a coffee shop just so I, like, see people. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, and then I try to, like, have, like, at least one time a day that I either get out of the house or, like, spend time with friends. And so, like, I'll set up coffee dates or just, like, get lunch with people. And, like, I have, like, my life group and then the porch on Thursdays. So it's, like, every week. And then I think just, yeah, being intentional with community and, like, not staying locked up in the house all the time.
Anybody else? Any last minute thoughts that you've thought of? Nope.
My advice last year was don't get a dog.
Don't do it.
It's still his advice.
Alright.
I'll ruin your life.
Oh my gosh, don't say ruin, it's not that bad. She did just eat a hole in our driveway. She ate a hole in our driveway. Anyway, we love her, but
Cats are so much better. Get a cat.
Get a cat.
They take care of themselves. I love our
Get
dog
2
too,
cats.
but like you can't. We have to put her in a hotel. We have to get her a little doggy hotel.
they are very
to,
expensive.
So.
We throw our cats some food and be like, alright, good luck, see you in a couple days.
So true.
But really though, you can give the cats 3 days worth of food
And they're glad you're gone.
Alrighty, dang it!
Or you could just hire Katie because she
Yes.
also does that on the side and she's quite famous
You
around
can take
here
Belle
for
and
all
like
of
train
her.
her for like a
animals.
month.
Oh, so you can take ours too.
And I'm booked for the next couple months.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here. We always appreciate you making the drive. I know for some of you, you drove over an hour, or right at an hour. No, over an hour. Yeah.
An hour 10-ish.
So thank you for being here. And can I get one of you to just pray for our seniors as we close?
Yep, I can.
Okay.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all together here tonight, Lord, just to talk about the future, Lord, and talk about how we can do that in a smart way that is glorifying to you. I pray that for each one of these students as they go out the next few years on their own and just trying to figure things out, Lord, I pray that you give them guidance and wisdom as they go through that and let them know that they're not alone. They have you to help them there, and they have this support group as well. We thank you, Lord, for all you've done for us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.